and we give into the temptation, that's when he comes with accusation. He goes, I can't believe you did that. You call yourself a Christian? You hypocrite. A real Christian would never do that, right? He tempts us to sin and then condemns us when we do it. This is why Revelation 12:10, the enemy is called the accuser. It's his name. It's what he does, right? An accusation is the right cross of the enemy. He sets it up with the jab. And the moment you give into that temptation and that jab lands, he comes in with accusation to knock you out. Accusation is a charge of wrongdoing that is made against a person. See, the enemy is behind the guilt and the condemnation that we experience when we sin. He reminds you of your failures. He makes you think that God can't love you because of what you've done. Oh, don't go to church because you messed up. And if people know about that, they're going to judge you at that place. Don't bother praying or reading your word because God's not going to answer your prayer. God's not going to speak to you from the word because of what you've done. And see, if he can get you under guilt and condemnation, he can get you to sin even more. See, what happens is you're doing good. You're living for God. You're doing holy. You're in a small group, right? You're doing great. And then the small group semester ends and you kind of, get distracted. You take your eye off the ball. You give into that temptation. What happens? You feel terrible. And you think, well, I already feel terrible. I already messed up. I might as well do it again. And then you give in to the temptation again. And then the guilt and condemnation is even worse. And because you feel worse, you give into it, the sin again, right? And you continue to spiral downward in guilt, shame, condemnation, and sin. And his goal is to make you feel so defeated, like such a failure, that you just give up and you think, you know what, I can't live for God, so why try? And you completely give up in trying to live for God. This is the enemy's strategy against us. And so you need to know that there is no condemnation to those who are in Christ Jesus. That just because he landed that jab on your face doesn't mean you need to get knocked out with accusation, because Jesus took all the condemnation, which means there's no condemnation left for you. Jesus died for that very sin. He paid for it on the cross so that you can be forgiven and free, so that you don't have to live under the weight of your guilt any longer, because all guilt was transferred to Jesus and God now declares you righteous. Right? When Jesus found the woman who was caught in the act of adultery, what did he say to her? He said, neither do I condemn you, go and sin no more. See, it's only when you know that there is no condemnation that you are empowered to go and sin no more. As long as you live under condemnation, you're going to continue to struggle, you're going to continue to fail. But when you know there is no condemnation, it is what empowers you to actually go and sin no more. So condemnation, receive his forgiveness and mercy, and walk in freedom.